Hello, I'm Joanne Turner reporting for Total Telecom from Carriers World in London, and I'm talking to Leo Zancani from Ontology. Leo, welcome, and you've taken part today in a roundtable on SDN and NFV, so maybe you can start by telling us a little bit about Ontology's involvement in SDN and NFV.
Sure, so Ontology make a product that takes data from anywhere we can get it, really, from the OSS, from the BSS, and now from orchestration, obviously. And we use that to build a very complete model of the network and all of the components that are involved in delivering a service. So the logical layer and now the virtual layer as well. And then we serve that to the fulfillment side orchestrators so they can make better decisions, and to the service assurance side for doing things like service impact analysis. And so in the last couple of years, we've started to get a lot of demand around, how can you help us with this sort of very much higher level of automation that we're seeing nowadays.
Okay, so how can carriers, put NFV into their existing networks?
Well, I think that's a very broad question. I think one of the unexpected consequences, perhaps, of trying to do NFV is the impact it's going to have on their existing networks. So they're sort of looking at what they've got at the moment, and at some level, NFV is going to have to coexist, and I think even collaborate with the existing network. And if you look at the view that carriers have of their existing network, it's fragmented. It's a pretty questionable quality, really. It's very manually curated. It's slow. It tends to be out of date. And at the moment, people kind of work around that. There's humans in the loop, and people cope. When you bring that into contact with the sort of much higher levels of automation that you see in these new environments, there's a real risk that could undermine some of the benefits and some of the value that you expect to get from things like NFV. And so I think what is possible might happen is that there'll be a renewed focus on the quality of the data that these carriers have about their existing network. I think that's a bit unexpected. I don't think the industry was kind of expecting that. I think they were expecting to see two separate bubbles, and that's not really what's happening.
Okay, what about the biggest challenges for getting NFV in production?
So I think the prevailing view is that those aren't technical, interestingly, that they're cultural and organisational. And I think that was reflected in some of the discussion we saw around the table today, actually, and I tend to agree with it. I think that carriers historically have kind of started with a requirement to sort of very highly engineer their networks because high availability, usually, that's part of what's made them so vulnerable to the over-the-top players who don't start with that requirement. They start with what does the user want, and I think that to sort of move into that mindset and take a more DevOps approach, a more fluid approach to service design and delivery is going to be a huge challenge for them.
Okay, well, thanks for talking to us today and for your talk today as well. Thanks.
Thank you very much.